call this meeting to order. This is the City of Harvey regular city council meeting on Monday, August 9th, 2021. It is 7:12 p.m. Clerk, would you please call the roll of council members?
Alderwoman Jerwinski. Present. Alderman Hilbert.
Present.
Alderman Suda.
Present.
Alderman Key.
Present.
Alderman Randall. Alderman Rogers.
Present.
Present. Alderman Rogers, Alderman Manuel is not available today for some personal matters. So all I'm going to do is just ask everyone to keep this in the thoughts and prayers. Next item on the agenda is the invocation of pledge of allegiance. The Alderman of the Group 6 Ward, Alderman Rogers would be so kind as to be the leaders of the invocation of the pledge.
Yes, sir. Thank you. When we close our eyes and bow our heads, thank you, Lord Jesus, for this day. Thank you for another day, Lord Jesus, that you saw fit to allow us, Lord Jesus, to come into these chambers and take care of business and say, Lord Jesus, we come to you with our cups half empty because we know that you have an abundance of grace and mercy to fill our cups to the rim. Lord Jesus, we ask a special prayer for every resident under the sound of my voice and every member of the city council. Lord Jesus, we ask a special prayer for all of our law enforcement agencies and our law enforcement police officers throughout the entire country, especially the young lady that was deceased due to gunshots yesterday, and her partner who's in the hospital fighting for his life. We ask a special prayer, Lord Jesus, to watch over and heal the body. And Lord Jesus, we'll forever give you praise on the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, before we continue, I just want to say to the council that we are hoping to move to in-person meetings soon. It is at least my desire for us to do so. We are keeping an eye on positivity and vaccination rates here in the city. I will tell you honestly, they don't look that good, but we're going to be ever so hopeful that the positivity rates will go down. Vaccination rates will go up, and as people begin to deal with this new variant of the virus, that does not have an impact on us as it is happening on some hospitals. But I just want to let you know that we are keeping an eye on that. I'm hoping, I am so hopeful that we will be able to get to those meetings soon. Other than that, looking at the agenda, we have two issues on the agenda. Specifically, number 7A3 and 7A4, which need to be in executive session prior to vote. Therefore, if it is with the council's permission, I'd like to amend the agenda to move the executive session up to between 6B and 7. Yes, sir. Chair recognizes the Alderman 6.
Since we're going to be amending the agenda, there was some other items that I felt that should have been taken off, that should have been into committee, as far as old business, item number 1 and item number 2. One is appropriating purpose for the Harvard fiscal year budget. We didn't have an opportunity to discuss that budget today due to a lack of reform of the finance meeting. And the order.
Same thing with 2.
Same thing with 2. As well as new business, the bill sales. We didn't have an opportunity, and they are amounting to 4 bills. And I would like to have that taken care of. Unfortunately, we didn't have that opportunity today. those are the three items.
Yeah, because you did call a finance meeting, that's correct, right?
Yes, that's correct, but we had a lack of form, we didn't have enough members.
All right, so, the issues before, council is to move the executive session to, between 60.
I'm sorry, man, there was one more, under new business, number 5.
The whole business. There was no meeting call,
Yeah, but it went to committee.
but there was no meeting call
Well, we haven't had an opportunity to have a meeting.
because there was no meeting call. But I want the council to decide,
Okay.
because the simple fact is there was no meeting call for that. Okay. So,
Now you're seeking approval.
we started Cherokee, that's the, the first one, what we say?
We're seeking approval to remove ordinance under old business 1 and 2.
That's correct.
That's right. And then number 3, number 4, we are asking to move it towards between 6 and 7, correct?
Between 60 and 7, executive session.
Okay.
Do that. Just to be proper, the orders on file, I said that it had not been called, there was no meeting called, so the first thing I'd like to do is just find out from the legislative chair if this is what he desires. Okay, all right. So, on the request of the legislative chair for the legislative committee for number 5, and the finance chair for, let me rephrase that. On the request of the finance chair, items number 5, which is bills and payments list, item 71 and 72. The request is to remove those from the agenda.
That's correct,
And
man.
on the request of the legislative committee chair, the 7A5 to remove that from today's agenda as well. Is that correct? I want to make sure. I'm going to ask for a motion, so.
You got it right?
Legislative chair?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. And then, so the motion would be, once again, to remove numbers 5, 7A1, 72, 75 from the agenda, and to move executive session in between 6B and 7. Chair will entertain a motion. Motion by the sixth, second by the second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Pruitt.
Yes.
Alderman Randall. Alderman Rogers.
Yes.
And Alderman Tolbert.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our next item on the agenda is approval of minutes to the dated July 12, 2021. This is a regular meeting. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by the first, second by the third. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Randall. Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Pruitt.
Yes.
Alderwoman Jerome.
Yes.
Alderman Rogers.
Yes.
And Alderman Tolbert.
No.
Motion carries. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Our next item on the agenda is presentations. Presentation 6A, presentation from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, CMAP, Resource Opportunity and Impact Program for the City of Hartford. The representative from CMAP, please step forward, introduce yourself to the council, and welcome.
Thank you.
name is Tricia Hyman. I'm the Senior Development Specialist at the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. This is my colleague Jamie Jackson, who's a Senior Planner at CNAP. We are here today to present to you on the ROI program, which we've been working with the city on for the past little over 6 months. So as background, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning is the region's metropolitan planning organization. The agency and its partners have developed and are now implementing the ONTO 2050 plan, which is a long-range plan to help the 7 counties and 284 municipalities in the region of northeastern Illinois implement strategies that address transportation, housing, economic development, open space, the environment, and other quality of life issues. So tonight we have a brief presentation for you to provide an update on the Resource Opportunity and Impact Program, or ROI. All right, is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just to recap, I'm Tricia. This is my colleague Jamie. We won't go through everything, but we're here to talk to you about some of the successes that we've had over the past 6 months with the Resource Opportunity and Impact Program. So we have had the privilege to work together with the City of Harvey staff to really bring together funding and impact results for transportation funding opportunities. So before diving into the presentation, Jamie and I just like to formally thank the mayor, the city council, and especially the staff that we've had the pleasure of working with over the past few months, and many of the councils that we connected with in the early parts of the program. So thank you to everyone's time and attention to make this a success. So with everyone's time, support, and expertise, we were able to accomplish even more than was really expected with this program, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So before diving into the specifics of the program design and what was actually accomplished, we want to highlight to you what the ONTO 2050 plan is the foundation of this program's work. So as the implementation of the long-range plan, this was developed and it was guided by the principles of inclusive growth, resilience, and prioritized investment. It's a new form of technical assistance aimed specifically at building local government capacity and supporting plan implementation on the ground in partner municipalities. Through the ROI program, Jamie and I worked with the City of Harvey staff under the direction of Tim Williams, the city administrator, to provide additional capacity and assistance identifying and navigating transportation investment programs in order to enhance efforts to seek transportation project funding. Under the 6-month pilot program, so this is a new sort of fast-track program that was developed by CNAP, the goals were to establish consensus on priority transportation projects. It primarily focused on transportation, determine next steps for implementation, build capacity of the municipality to apply and manage those funding awards, and get transportation projects in the pipeline for external funding. Funding for transportation projects is long-range and complicated. Planning is necessary at the early stages of project prioritization in order to secure limited and competitive grant funding over the course of a multi-year period. This can be a challenge for municipalities, and exactly the challenge that the ROI program is designed to assist with and work collaboratively towards. Our former colleague, Mandy Jar, who served as the ROI program manager, and has moved on as a municipal staff employee at this point as well, but presented to City Council in December of 2020, meeting to formally introduce the city to the program. Since then, Danny and myself have worked closely with Tim, Robin, Nick, and Ferguson and Terra Group, among other City of Harvey and CNAP staff members. We've spoken with several of the aldermen and alderwomen here tonight to identify and prioritize transportation projects throughout the community, and those projects were then matched with available grant funding opportunities. We'd like to take a minute to walk through the program timeline to provide you with a better understanding of how the ROI program is implemented. So actually, if you wouldn't mind going back still. So this slide provides that overview. So the project kicked off at the end of 2020 with project initiation. We then began the process of getting to know the community for the next 2 months through research and conversations. From February through April, we focused our efforts on providing grant application support and moved into the development of an action plan in March. From April through July, there was an additional month provided to extend the program longer. We worked towards the implementation of the action plan. Jamie and I intend to continue to schedule quarterly check-ins with the City of Harvey staff to receive program updates, as well as keep the door open for future assistance opportunities from CNAP over the next few months. In the next few slides, we will take a closer look at the actual outcomes and accomplishments that resulted from these efforts. So here we are. With the program outcomes, one of the first deliverables that we focused on developing was a grants toolkit. So one of the main areas of focus for the program is to build capacity of the City of Harvey to apply for and manage funding. In order to achieve this objective, one set of program outcomes was focused on developing a customized grants toolkit. The grant toolkit involved the development of a grant lifecycle process to provide clear, streamlined processes to support the application, management, and closeout of a successful grant award through its lifespan, again with the emphasis on transportation funding opportunities. This process was intended to build out a process further that was already existing quite successfully, with just additional focus brought to it. Additionally, we worked together to develop the active grant inventory of current and past applications, as well as a transportation grants list to provide a quick reference of potential transportation funding opportunities and sources. Lastly, we developed an annual grant fraud training that we shared with staff on an annual basis to meet funder requirements as needed and continue to support the city's culture of compliance. Jamie will now touch on some of the project-specific outcomes of the program.
Thank you, Tricia, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As Tricia mentioned, we work closely with staff and several aldermen to get a better understanding of the city's transportation infrastructure needs. The result was a prioritized list of transportation projects. And using this list, we were able to align several other projects with current transportation grant funding life cycles, and with the assistance of Antero Group, applied for 7 different grants. Of the $72 million in grant applications that we applied for, we have received some results. So Harvey unfortunately did not receive funding for an AARP grant. However, we got promising news about 2 much larger projects, and they've both been recommended for funding to the CNAP board for approval. First is the STP Shared Fund for the Dixie Highway Reconstruction Project. This is a $1.4 million project for Phase 1 engineering, and the funds are scheduled to be released in 2025. This project would reconstruct Dixie Highway from 138th Street in Cozen all the way down to 159th Street. It would completely reconstruct the road, replacing water, sewer lines, and adding sidewalks. Another project that has been recommended for at least Phase 1 funding is the Rhodey Avenue Shared Use Trail, which would extend from Sibley down to 158th Place for Phase 1 engineering. So that is $75,000 for Phase 1 engineering looking at this project. And those funds will be released between 2022 and 2026. So huge wins. We're really excited that we were able to apply for these grants, and we've seen some results already. In addition, CNAP worked with the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association and city staff with awareness to provide leadership to provide additional funding for the Wood Street project to ensure that sidewalks and lighting were included as part of this reconstruction program. Next slide, please. So the transportation project list that we created was translated into a dynamic online map accessible to the public. The map shows the extent of the various transportation projects, their project phase, whether that be the planning phase, the Phase 1 engineering, design, or construction. If you click on the location of the project, you'll find a short description of that project, information about the funding status, as well as the estimated cost for that project. As these projects move through the grant lifecycle process, they can easily be updated on this map. And as new projects are developed and and then that was made available through an existing partnership with the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association. It's a tool that provides an easily accessible view of the existing transportation projects in the community. Next slide, please. So we also created a summary document that includes several opportunities for the future transportation investment in Harvey. There are many funding opportunities available, which are included in the available transportation grant list, a document that will really serve as a resource for all the various grant opportunities out there. The report also includes next steps for several of the priority projects that we discussed, moving into phase 2 design and eventually construction. So while we developed several, next slide please. While we developed several resources to help secure funding for transportation, those tools need to be reviewed and updated regularly, and staff needs to be allocated time to pursue grant funding. This initial transportation list that we developed helps identify transportation-related projects, but transportation infrastructure is only a small piece of the infrastructure that comprises the city. This is why CNAP recommends the city develop and adopt a capital improvement plan, which will identify and prioritize all types of infrastructure, including transportation, water, stormwater, public buildings, and capital equipment. We'll also identify funding and a 5 to 10 year plan for implementation. Similarly, a comprehensive plan would assist the community to identify its goals and land use policies, which would support decision-making for the next 10 to 15 years. CNAP does provide technical assistance for both capital improvement plans and comprehensive plans through its local technical assistance program, and we plan to stay in touch with staff to alert them when these opportunities become available. So this ROI program came together successfully because of the very talented and very dedicated staff in the city of Harvey. It helped facilitate strong communication between CNAP and the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association. And we hope we can maintain this relationship so that staff has the tools and resources it needs to identify and pursue funding opportunities as they arise. We very much look forward to the future of Harvey and seeing these transportation projects come to life. So thank you so much. We really enjoy working with the city of Harvey and hope to continue this partnership into the future. So then we'll bring questions.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thanks. First, thank you for presentation. Thank you for the hard work that you've done along with the staff as well, and administration, and as a council members. Just a quick question regarding to the Dixie Highway and the trail. The actual gigs for the receipt of those particular funds would be sometime in the future. But when is the decision made? And when would say we receive notification of when those, if we were awarded?
Right, so the recommended project, so CNAP's process for these grants is that they have a pretty detailed mechanism for rating them. And then they provide a recommended list, and that goes through public comment. That public comment period just wrapped up at the end of July. Then it's going to go through various committees, and I believe before the end of 2021, there will be a vote by the board and the MPO committee to determine which projects actually make it through for funding. But because it was an early on recommended project, I feel strongly that it will likely be approved.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes the alderman from the 6th Ward.
Jane or Tricia, either one of you can answer this question. You mentioned in your presentation that phase 1 of this project was going to start in Posen at 138th Street and continue down Dixie Highway until 158th. I mean, how much of an intricate role does the city of Posen play in the success of whether or not Harvey is able to succeed with the grant money?
That's a great question. A big part of the reason why this grant was competitive is because of the partnership with Posen. So that was really facilitated through Antero Group. Curtis Whittick is the project manager, and he helped facilitate that partnership. So working with that engineering consulting group, they will ensure that Posen partner, so that this grant funding can go through and get effective.
Okay, well, and part two of my question was, first of all, I'd like to commend you ladies for your diligence and hard work on seeking grant money to help improve our city. You mentioned in phase 2 along the Rose Street corridor. You didn't mention infrastructure or street lighting. Would that also play a role in where this grant money is spent?
As much as it's a component of the street. So the street is reconstructed. Part of the scope of work would potentially be new street lights and new sidewalks, so it's all kind of bundled together. However, each street and each corridor is different, and those scopes of work are really worked out through that phase 1 engineering.
And Alderman, also in regards to the project involving Posey, just so you know, the mayor, Posey, and I work very closely together. We have a very good solid relationship. So our visions are really aligned. And I think that's one of the things that helps to move these types of endeavors forward. Any other questions from the council? Thank you so much. Thank you very much for we appreciate your work. The next item on the agenda is item 6B, presentation by the Department of Economic Development for the City of Harvey Broadband Strategic Initiative. And that brings us to our first reading, Mr. Nicholas Eisenberg.
Thank you, Mayor.
Deputy Chief of Staff, David Light.
Momentarily turn over to David. But first of all, thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. We won this grant approximately 1 year ago, so we're finally at the culmination where we've done all the hard work. We had a steering committee that helped really steer us through this drafting process. It was a $15,000 grant plus technical assistance. And then, so David is going to walk us through what the actual strategy is about.
Before we continue, I want to make sure we get this clear, and everyone on the council hears this, and anyone who's watching hears this, because there was this rumor that there was $600,000 that was awarded to the city of Harvey for broadband strategy. Are you aware of that? Have you heard of that? I knew it didn't happen, but I just want to make sure we hear this. So, how much was the award to the city of Harvey?
$15,000 plus technical assistance.
$15,000 plus technical assistance. Oh, thank you very much.
David.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Clay. I'm the new deputy chief of staff here at the City of Harvey, and I'm very glad to present to you some months of hard work to try and formulate and be successful at implementing the creation of Harvard's broadband strategy. So, we'll get started. Next slide, please. So, here's a little roadmap of where we're going. First, we're going to look at existing conditions and the background. So, looking at where Harvey is in this broadband story, broadly speaking, and that will be defining the terms and then understanding the landscape. Then we'll move on to the actual strategy that we're looking to implement, and that leads us to go over a strategic framework, some recommendations, some metrics and measures to make sure that we're on the right path, and finally our focus moving forward. And then we'll have a quick talk about our South Suburban Roundtable that we had earlier in June, and then we'll open it up for the Q&A session. Can we go to the next slide? So first, let's start with defining the terms. So broadband, as defined, broadband is high-speed internet access, and according to the FCC, that is 25 Mbps download speed and 3 Mbps upload speed. So next we have the digital divide, which is an issue that we're dealing with in the city of Harvey, broadly speaking, and that is those with internet and devices to use it and those without, and the divide is obviously goes out. Then we have digital equity, which is essentially everyone has access to internet broadband and has a device that allows them to get on and use it effectively. Finally, Finally, we have an ISP or a WISP. Now, these are acronyms. ISP standing for Internet Service Provider, and WISP standing for Wireless Internet Service Provider. And these are essentially companies that provide internet, such as Comcast, AT&T, and others. Next slide. So let's look at these listing conditions of hiring. Because in order to know where we're going, we need to know where we are and where we've been. Next slide. So here we have a map of the city of Harvey, and we have it color-coded, and the deeper the blue, the more digital inequity is present within that section of our community. And as you can see, wards 1, 2, 3, and 4 have the heaviest concentration of digital inequity in our community, while 5 and 6 have some of the least. However, the issue the Harvey faces altogether is the fact that we're even having people without either access to internet or access to a computer in the household. Either or is being tracked on this map. Next slide, please. So now let's get into our broadband strategy. Next slide. So what is digital equity? According to the Illinois Office of Broadband and the Bend Institute, who have been our partners through our process, digital equity stands on 3 legs of access, adoption, and use. Access is essentially people actually having access to the physical infrastructure, such as internet and laptops or whatever device you need to get on the internet. And without that, obviously, and forward. After access, you have adoption. So once you have access to these things, you need to know how to use them. And you need to know how to adopt this technology, broadly speaking. So, for example, if someone has a computer but doesn't know how to go on Google and go on search, then they have not adopted that technology. Now, use is a bit more on the side of sophisticated use. Do you know how to use the internet to find a job? Do you know how to use the internet to type a memo or do other important skills that will help you become a 21st century citizen? And finally, we have an arrow cutting across these 3 legs called cross-cutting. And cross-cutting are a set of strategies that don't neatly fall into either the access, adoption, or use bucket. So they're more of a all-around recommendation. Next slide, please. So let's get into more detail. Access. Can residents access the things that the internet provides? And so part of our strategy is providing a variety of broadband infrastructure options. We'll get more into that in the next slide. Then we have adoption. What are the underlying factors that affect Harvey's broadband subscription rates? And our solution to that is utilizing ISP competition and programs for a more affordable subscription rate across the board. Then we have use. How should broadband technology be utilized in the city of Harvey? And we want to develop digital literacy programs and provide digital services to usher in the 21st century to Harvey. And then looking at our cross-cutting strategies, in what ways do these practices intersect with one another? Next slide, please. So this matrix is the most important thing in this whole presentation. This outlines what our broadband strategy is for the city of Harvey. So we have them broken into access, adoption, use, and cross-cutting. So for access, we talk about multi-family connectivity utilizing WISP technology. Nick, would you like to come and talk about what we've done with that?
So, yeah, we're trying to basically piggyback on certain efforts, including other not-for-profits or regional groups like South Suburban Area Managers. With respect to risk, one of the technologies out there is ability to beam a signal from, let's say, downtown Chicago to Harvey or suburban location or Ingalls. And then at that point, at the receiving end, you'll be able to distribute that signal, as opposed to actually having to link cable or fiber optic, which is a much more expensive proposition per linear foot or linear mile. So that's an exciting technology we're looking at. There's certain companies that do that.
So our partner company, just to go more in depth on that strategy, because he's very instrumental in getting that passed and getting that moving forward. Then we have single family access, which utilizes WISP and local hotspots. So we don't want to be invasive in the homes of our residents. And so with that, wireless internet service is the best option that we've identified. And that is, like you said, broadcasting a signal to our homes and our communities so they can get on their Wi-Fi and use it in that manner. Services such as Comcast have, for example, wireless service that does that, just as an example. Then we have partnering on regional infrastructure projects. Organizations such as the SSMMA, CSFN, and Cook County are looking to implement more outreach in terms of their infrastructure. They're looking to expand, for example, their fiber optic network from the existing lines we already have in our community. And we would like to make sure that we are partnering in that process to make sure our crucial critical institutions are connected and online. Then we have adoption. So for adoption, we have multifamily engagement for higher adoption rates. So even though, as I said before, you might have access to this technology, we want to make sure that within this access, you understand what you're doing and you're adopting as well. And so adoption for our multifamily means that we're going to these places and we're letting them know, one, you have that access, and two, we would like you to make use of it in a manner that will give you a job or make you a more productive citizen or allow you to have a better standard of living. Then we have single-family federal subsidies, short and long-term. I believe we've all heard of the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program from the federal government. It is essentially a subsidy program that the federal government is doing to entice and incentivize people to get online and make sure that their children have access to the internet despite the COVID-19 pandemic. And that would be an example of a short-term federal subsidy that the city of Harlem is looking to take advantage of and broadcast to our residents in terms of this is an opportunity you should be utilizing it more effectively. Then we want to promote broader adoption through partnership with TTHS on community outreach. Our students, essentially, our IB students, within the curriculum must have a community service component to get their diploma. And with that, we want to make sure that our students are getting involved within our community, not only to get the diploma, but also to make sure that they're teaching our own residents how to utilize this technology effectively and just becoming more involved citizens moving forward. Then we have youth, partnering with Harvey Public Library. Harvey Public Library has access to the internet and also they have devices that are, as in the words of Xavier Menzies, the APL director, go underutilized. We're looking to utilize that technology and hopefully have literacy courses to make sure people in our community understand what they're doing on the internet. Then we want to promote broader utilization through partnerships with South Suburban College on Training. Once again, they are an educational institution, and so they can offer us training programs and expertise in this field to make sure that what we are offering our citizens is worthwhile. And once again, partnering with TTHS students and faculty to make sure our residents understand what they're doing, and then delivering valuable digital services to residents and businesses. And finally, we have our cross-cutting strategies, such as leveraging the Illinois Office of Broadband Opportunities and Resources. As I said, they were a partner through this process, and they have told us now and again that they will be there to help us with anything that we need. So our strategy is to utilize whatever they're offering to make sure that we're having an overall and comprehensive plan. Then we want to integrate broadband strategies with our TOD plan. Maybe we can come and talk about our TOD plan and what we're going to do. That's sure.
As some of you know, we're in the middle of a TOD plan. We just had our first two public engagement sessions last week. So it's an exciting time to work on transit-oriented development. However, what's interesting about TOD, it's an important planning initiative, but it's also an opportunity to try to expand broadband, because we're basically looking in a high-density area downtown in Depot's area, which is what the TOD area comprises. So we think it's an excellent opportunity to really utilize this broadband strategy to kind of, partner up and utilize some of the resources that are going to come out of the TOD planning process to really advance some of these broadband goals. So that's kind of what we're aiming to do going forward, whether it's a specific strategy that the consultant recommends to the city in a few months from now, urban tourism, another grant program down the pipe.
And then very similar things to that, integrating our broadband initiatives with our park improvement strategy to make sure we have, for example, public Wi-Fi in our parks, so everyone in the community always has access to internet no matter where they are. And then finally, partnering with nonprofits such as PCs for People with the Chicago Area Broadband Initiative to make sure that we are distributing devices at an affordable cost for our residents, but also making sure that our approach is equitable through and through. Next slide, please. So now we get to talk about the measures. And generally, it's just a two-pronged approach, making sure we're utilizing quantitative and qualitative measures. Quantitative insofar as we're collecting raw data in terms of how many people are accessing our network. Is there an upward or downward trend in how many people are accessing the networks that we have in our community? Then we want to utilize the logistics systems to make sure we can track that and those trends, and also engaging with IT specialists to make sure that these systems are being maintained and utilized throughout the process. Then we have our qualitative measures, and this looks like community outreach and feedback frameworks. So things such as surveys, interviews, and community meetings and forums to get a more comprehensive view of how our residents and our community members feel about our strategy moving forward. Next slide, please. So now we have our focus moving forward. And essentially this can be characterized as middle and last mile servicing. Middle mile servicing means that we're connecting our critical institutions that our residents go to, such as the library and other places, to get on the internet and become a more digitally literate citizen. And then we have last mile servicing, which talks about getting internet into the home. And we're looking to utilize WISP technology for that last mile servicing, looking at our single-family homes and our multi-family developments. Then we're looking to utilize fiber optic cable infrastructure for those middle mile connections, so connecting with TCHS and HPL and other critical institutions. And those would be our anchor institutions or our municipal centers. Next slide, please. Now we get to talk about our South Suburban Broadband Roundtable. And ultimately, the way we're going to get this broadband initiative done is through partnerships and meaningful partnerships that help us drive this initiative forward. Next slide, please. So on June 23rd, 2021, we had a roundtable with multiple stakeholders to talk about Harvey's broadband strategic strategy and have a brainstorming session to make sure that what we had was equitable and would make all residents equitable and connected. And so that was South Suburban, City of Harvey, the TMA Solutions, District 152, Urban Com, SLG Innovation, SSMMA, and Harvey Public Library were the attendants at this meeting. And our key takeaway was we want to leverage specialized access within our group for grants and government funding, because there are specific funds and grants that HPL and TCHS can utilize that we cannot, such as E-rate funding. Then we want to utilize member spaces for continued cooperation on Harvey broadband implementation. And that goes back when I talked about HPL's library and the computer lab, which is going underutilized, and we are seeking to have that be utilized. Then we want to involve regional and local stakeholders, such as our school district, to make sure that what we're doing is equitable and fair for our students. Then we want to take advantage of specialist expertise and experience to promote a strong broadband foundation. And so that looks like utilizing IT specialists at South Suburban to make sure whatever logistics systems or technology we look to implement is feasible, one, and effective, number two. And then finally, we are looking for further cooperation between each party that were present at this meeting moving forward to make sure that it is equitable and respectful way. Next slide, please. And now I open it to a Q&A session from the council members.
Sure, can I ask y'all for some support?
Mark, right?
David.
Right?
David.
David, yeah, I'm sorry. David, that was a great presentation. Having some experience in broadband internet connection. What we normally utilize right now in the city of Harvey's fiber optics and cable using RG6. being WASP, using the WASP technology. Okay, how would that work out as far as IP addresses being intertwined or interactive with one another? If it's coming from such a long distance, okay, and you're shooting a beam, a WASP beam, Wi-Fi from Chicago Loop to Harvey, you got a million IP addresses that's going to intersect with. So as far as valuable personal information and that kind of thing, it will probably be twined in. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
I absolutely can. So in terms of how the distance of where this beam is coming from, it wouldn't be as remote as the Loop of Chicago. It would be access points within our community that are strategically located and tall enough to reach just our city. And in terms of privacy concerns and IP addresses, that is why we're consulting IT specialists to make sure whatever system we do implement is a very private and safe network moving forward. If that helps.
Using Comcast, which I personally use, I have the 1G, with our broadband system that we're implementing, would it be less expensive to the residents here in Harvey than what Comcast is normally charging us?
So that's the thing, we're looking to partner with many ISP companies to make sure that we're getting the most affordable rate for our services.
If you could share that, sure. I think the main thing, like David was saying, is if we get more competition, we don't want to pick the winners, but we want to have a more competitive field and more greater set of options for whether you're a resident or a business owner. So that if it's not just one or two, but maybe 3 or 4, that would be a better thing.
So the more options, the least expensive it is.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. There's a lot of startups out there that are really building their business and are starting maybe in a part of Chicago but want to expand outward, and we're seeing that with companies like Everywhere Wireless.
The chair recognizes the author from the second word.
Hey, me, David, I think the roundtable,
Maybe you speak to the microphone, please.
great participants. My question for you guys was, did you?
All right, can we speak to the microphone? Well, understand that there are other people that we're broadcasting to that would like to hear, so I'm asking.
I'll speak to
the microphone.
So you guys had a roundtable. My question is, did you guys include Comcast or AT&T?
Well, the way it was structured is we had a consultant from the state of Illinois Office of Broadband, and then he convened basically monthly steering committee, and then he would periodically bring in outside speakers. So we didn't, have Comcast, be one of those.
Well, not just Comcast, I mean AT&T.
Yeah.
They were too large.
Yeah.
That's why I asked that. Because the goal is to ultimately provide more options outside of them to make competition and bring the lower price. So will City of Harvey become an ISP itself or no?
Yeah, I don't think there's a desire for that, and even if we had that, motivation, I just think from a budgetary standpoint, we're not in a position to do that. In fact, that's why we keep on talking or using the word partnership, because really that's a way for us to leverage our limited resources. We want to get those grants, we want to partner with the Harvey Public Library District, which really has that access to E-rate that David was saying. So there's a lot of things we can do. And then I forgot to mention earlier, we have later on the agenda a small-scale developer, Mark Wells, will be talking about his redevelopment project. But for each redevelopment project, we want to partner with that developer to try to provide low-cost internet to the residents that they're serving to.
And so you're like, what about the existing programs, Comcast, AT&T? How can we implement that or promote that even more? I'm sure they could probably service every house in Harvey.
Yeah,
Every business.
certainly, they're the incumbent, they're the big provider, so they have a lot of resources. And I think Comcast has an Internet Essentials program. So I think one of the things that we can do is just to make sure that there's more awareness of it, because there's probably some people that aren't familiar with that program. So should be aware of it.
On the Comcast, they're watching right now. We've had subsequent conversations with Comcast, and they certainly have extended their hand to be a partner in this program. So we haven't, as they alluded, we're agnostic as to who the provider is for the city. We don't want to get in that race, but certainly all hands on deck is an approach that we're taking, and they are committed to working with the city of Harvey in any way they can. So thanks to Comcast.
Chairman recognizes the author from the first word.
Mr. Mayor. You mentioned partnering up with the Harvey Public Library. I could be wrong on the date approximately.
We're the same thing here,
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not that. Okay. Approximately 25 years ago, Harvey Library received a grant to give internet access to the residents of Harvey for $5. Now that was something very exciting, but it was when you had to dial up. So it was a long delays. And it might have even been longer than 25 years ago. We're not looking to do something like that, right?
No, we're not looking to get into the internet service provider business.
Right, okay.
The word partnership is key in this conversation moving forward because the city of Harvey simply cannot do that, and we're not looking to do that.
Because there was grant money back then. Because I took advantage of that. And then I can remember dialing in and it was a nightmare.
Yeah, I think the technology definitely.
I definitely agree.
It's 25.3, like David was indicating, that's the federal standard, which is obviously a lot faster than the old dial-up, and I used to use dial-up. I don't think David knows what it is.
No.
But,
The benefit would be a lot for more hours.
federal government is actually probably going to up that level of, the minimum standard, so we're looking forward to doing that. And if we do have the metrics that come into the city park, we want to make sure that they provide not just the minimum federal, but exceed that benchmark. Same thing when we're working with a developer, we want to see if they can provide a better level of service to the residents.
Now, we're talking about something different versus your cell phone versus your
Correct.
laptop.
Yeah, that's a good point, because one thing we see in Harvey and some other communities, this is according to our consultants, is that people will rely on their phone
Yes.
for internet, but, that's really an expensive, if you look at per megabit or whatever unit of data, that's an expensive way to get data. So if you have home internet, it's still the preferred and most economical way to get service, and that really is the way to get to all the services, telehealth, and other governmental services that more and more are online. The other point I want to make too is this is really, the timing for this is really good because we're wrapping up in August and early September, and then, as you probably know, the federal government with this package that they're putting together the 7th tonight and tomorrow. I think broadband is going to be an important part of that. And I'm hopeful that, working on our own and working with South Suburban, there's managers that puts us in a good position to move, to get more grants.
Thank you.
Truly recognizes the alderman from the 6th Ward.
Mr. Nick or Mr. Clay, either one of you can answer this question. How soon do we plan on starting up this broadband strategy?
Yeah, I think it's really, we've actually started it in a sense, because we've already are starting to work with developers to try to incentivize them to provide internet to their residents. We approved a project a couple weeks ago for 15720 Park. We had a groundbreaking ceremony there about 2 weeks ago. So they're going to provide low-cost broadband for their residents. Same thing for the upcoming Harvey Lofts project, larger scale, so that's a good way to get the broadband subscription rate from where it is now at 70% to a higher number. Hopefully they'll have a 100% rate in that building.
Now, according to Mr. Clay's presentation, wards number 1, 2, 3, and 4 were in a darker blue area than wards number 5 and 6. How soon is it before we can bring the entire city up to speed to where we're equally as fast?
Could you repeat your question, sorry?
Okay, wards number, in your presentation, wards number 1, 2, 3, and 4, they were in a darker blue area than the lighter blue area for wards 5 and 6.
Right.
How soon would it be before we could bring the entire city up, including wards 5 and 6, to be equal or comparable with wards 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Well, that's going to be a strategy that will take time. We don't have an exact date and date for when that will be, but as we speak now, we're looking at a 5-year interval and getting a lot of these things implemented, and hopefully by the next 5 years, we can see a drastic reduction in that blue concentration in the first, second, third, and fourth ward. So it's going to be a step-by-step process, but we want to make sure every step we take is the right step, and we set our foot down firmly, and we want a strong foundation. And so we don't want to rush anything, because if we rush things, that's how mistakes happen, correct? So I want to make sure that every step we take is the right step.
So the blue represents what?
So the blue, the darker the color, the higher the concentration of digital in it, which means someone in the household either has no access to internet or doesn't have a proper device to access that internet.
You were confusing.
Oh, so to be clear, we would like to see actually 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, right.
Those are the words of most concern.
5 and 6 is leading in the resources of utilizing the internet.
I'm sorry if that was not entirely clear.
Well, maybe I just misunderstood, but you cleared that down. I'm sure.
Thank you.
Any further questions? There being none, thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Clay, for your presentation, very good presentation. On the agenda is a regular session for litigation. Chair will entertain a motion to go to executive session.
I make a motion.
Motion by the second, motion by the first, second by the third. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Rogers. Alderman Randall L. Alderman Pruitt.
Yes.
Alderman Jermenski.
Yes.
Alderman Talbot.
Yes.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. It's table will go into executive session. Policy next order is 8:35. Chair will entertain a motion to go into open session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by the third, second by the sixth. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Rogers.
Yes.
Alderman Jermenski.
Yes.
Alderman Pruitt.
Yes.
And Alderman Talbot.
No.
Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda, thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is item 7A3, an ordinance approving the City of Harvey settlement agreement with American Kitchen Delights Incorporated, referred to executive session on July 12, 2021. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by the third, second by the sixth. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Pruitt.
Yes.
Alderman Jermenski.
Yes.
Alderman Rogers.
Yes.
Alderman Talbot, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is item number 7A4, the ordinance approving the lease of a portion of 15151 South Dixie Highway to American Kitchen Delights Incorporated, referred to executive session on July 12, 2021. The chair will entertain a motion. So moved.
Second.
Motion by the sixth, second by the third. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll.
Alderman Jermenski.
Yes.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Pruitt.
Yes.
Alderman Rogers.
Yes.
And Alderman Talbot.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda is new business. That will be 7D1, the resolution approving a redevelopment agreement between the City of Harvey and Harvey Construction LLC for 14753 Page Avenue. This appointment also have a second resolution as well for 15140 Jordan Avenue. Is there a representative from Harvey Construction LLC here?
Yes.
Please step forward, good sir. Introduce yourself to the City Council. As you see there on the presentation, also work you'd like to add. Please do so at this time.
Mayor, City Manager for Harvey Construction LLC. Look forward to
Introduce your name.
Marvin Wells.
Thank you.
Look forward to bringing 7 different models to the City of Harvey, along with new project models. Excited to get the city going in a new direction for new construction. You guys have any questions for me? I'm good, man.
Okay, before we go to questions, did you have something to hand up? Okay. Unless I can stand up, so.
You have to think about the broadband. You said, you said somebody.
So, explain to us, as well, just to give the, not just the council, but I think they, may know a little bit more about it, but explain to the audience as well, exactly who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Robbins. Actually started in Robbins, rebuilt in Robbins, and I previously came to Harvard maybe about 13 years ago, and we really been getting traction. So once you got on there, I've seen you actually come and visit a lot of properties in Robbins, not just once, but several times, and attending Nick as well as Mr. Witcher, you know, took the time to work with me and bring me to the city. So with that being said, it's leading to the opportunity that I think will work good for the city of Harvey. I have access to a number of banks, private, and access to Freddie and family money. So I'm thinking with that experience and what I bring to the table would be good for the city. I have several projects in Robbins. I'm working on single families, multi-families, commercial development, not just in Robbins, but in Park Forest, potentially here in the city of Harvey, Hazelcrest, and several other communities. So I'm here for the opportunity, willing to work hard, and I want to see Harvey come up.
Any questions from the city council?
Yes.
Trio recognizes this 6-word.
So you mentioned that you had existing projects going on in Robbins right now, single-family dwellings, multi-family dwellings. How many exact projects do you intend, the city council agrees with you tonight, to build in the or develop in the city of Harvey?
How many ever the city can handle, or they can throw towards the construction company, we have financing to keep those projects. We're not gonna come in and just talk and then go away and the project start and don't be finished. So once we get started, we're gonna finish the project, and the city council and the citizens like the type of work and the rapid pace that we work at, and we can do more projects.
So how long has your company been in existence?
It's a newly formed entity. So for each municipality, we don't like to co-mingle the assets with one company or another. So for asset protection, the lawyers always do us.
Okay. So how long have you personally overall been in business?
20 years. 20 years in residential and commercial real estate.
Sure, before I recognize the next chair, you gonna say something, Mr.?
Microphone's dead, but just wanted to say that Marvin Wells, we've had an opportunity to see his projects. He has quality construction, well-built product, and this is just a proof of concept. We wanted him to come to the city of Harvey and do a single-family home and a multi-family home here in the city, just to give you all, everyone, an opportunity to see how good his work is, how efficient he is in getting these properties up, and seeing if we'd be able to create a market for new construction. So that's something that we're certainly seeing the EAV go up, we're seeing property values go up in the city of Harvey. We think we're ready for the next step to bring some new construction to the city of Harvey. And this is just a proof of concept. After that, we'll revisit it and see if there's other parcels that the city owns that we prime for development.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And also just to add to your statement, I have seen some of the new development over in Robbins, some of the single-family dwellings, and they are very up to speed and very nice. So, for what I've seen so far, I see what kind of work you do.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair recognizes all from the first one.
So are you building these homes from scratch, or are you rehabbing these homes?
No, I've been built from scratch.
Built from scratch.
Yes, this is new construction.
Yeah, Look, all the construction, that's all we do. We don't do the rehabs. Not saying there's anything wrong with rehabs. We just feel that the city have you'll be able to attract more people with the new construction opposed to the rehab.
And what happened in all the homes that you did in Robbins?
Okay, so
So what was the average price?
I just sold one today for $385,000 per hour. So people, they said it wouldn't work. Same thing, they possibly say for hard, but I won't work. So we start small and gradually increase the market and it'll attract new people. You got people that's working people, nurses, doctors, people that's moving their rockers. I can't see why I would work hard.
And if I may also add to that, I didn't believe it initially. I still right now. I didn't believe it at all. I thought it was a fish story, and I had absolute, and I'm still amazed. But I did go out. I personally visited the properties. Sometimes we are products of our history. And so being in the city of Harvard for as long as I've had an opportunity to see some of the so-called developers come through and put up these shoddy products, these shoddy homes, talking about they're going to do all of this, that, and the other. And so when I went in to one of the homes in the Robbins, I had what's called a jaundice eye. I don't know if anybody knows that old Southern expression. But the simple fact is, and I was looking over it, waiting to find an issue. Probably because I was able to find one. Which made me extremely pleased. The work that I saw was unbelievable. It's actually, I worked for several years as a realtor for Beard and Warren. So we primarily sold, exclusive residential properties and some commercials as well. And it was to that level, if not that. The other part was the Kenny Summer. That was the next part, so I did not believe that either. And then I started doing the research on the actual properties, which was to my amazement. And I'm still, no offense to at the time they awarded the current mayor of Rollins, God bless you guys, but just like people have their own preconceived notions about the city of Harvey, I will admit, regrettably that I had my own preconceived notions about Rollins as well. And maybe it just comes through history. But they saw it. And it was just amazing, but obviously to me, this gentleman has a formula. I'm not really interested in knowing how he makes the Pepsi.
Right.
I just know it tastes good. And so therefore, that's what we figured that in this particular case, as Mr. Williams said, we get some concepts going, and then from that point, because he tried back in 2009, wasn't it, 8 or 9? Yeah, 2008 or 9. 2009. Yeah, 2009. Of course, we still have some of the design from that period of time. I'm not sure 100% what happened, but I will tell you this much. I believe that based on the work that he's doing now that the city lost out at that particular point in time, and just think how far we could have come. And we did what we were supposed to do at that particular time. So, any other questions? From the third ward?
Well, I really don't have a question, but thank you, Mr. Wells, and not to sound like a broken record, but I too had the opportunity to see the work in Robbins, and I'm truly, I was blown away by some of it, so I'm just thankful that you're here, so yes, I'm ready to vote.
If anybody wants to take a field trip, I'm up to remind me of that, so we can go ahead and you can see it. Okay, well, then based on that note, no other questions on 71, resolution approving a redevelopment agreement between the city of Harvey and Harvey Construction LLC for what form 753 motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion by the second, second by the first. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Keith,
Yes.
Alderman Rogers,
Yes.
Alderman Pruitt,
Yes.
Alderwoman Jermenski,
Yes.
and Alderman Tolbert.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk and Council. Next item on the agenda is item 7B2, a resolution approving the redevelopment agreement between the City of Party and Party Construction LLC for 15140 Charlton Avenue. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by the clerk, second by the first. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Jermenski,
Yes.
Alderman Pruitt,
Yes.
Alderman Tolbert,
Yes.
Alderman Rogers,
Yes.
and Alderman Pruitt. Mayor, before we go, I want to put
The resolution.
resolution numbers and forgiveness.
So resolution number 71, the resolution number.
It's 2947.
She hasn't finished the roll call.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's it. We finish the roll call for 7B2.
Forgive
And
me.
then we can go back to that.
I think you said proof twice.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Alderman Keith.
Yes.
Motion carried. And now we'll go back to the first, that resolution for the address at 14753 Page Avenue. And the resolution number is 2947. And the next resolution, the one for 15140 Old Turlington Avenue, will be 2948.
And this is, before we continue, this for housekeeping matters. On the old business, did we have numbers for
Yes, I'm going to.
783 and 74?
Yes. 783, ordinance will be 3436. That's the settlement agreement with American Kitchen. And the next ordinance for the approval of the lease for 15151 South Dixie Highway, that ordinance number is 3437.
Thank you for the motion. Oh, no, I was just moving through the agenda as well, so it happens sometimes. Next item on the agenda is 7B3, resolution accepting a grant, should be a grant, from the Illinois Housing Development Authority's Abandoned Residential Property Municipal Relief Program. I believe that this particular grant here is a grant that I think every single alderman and the mayor, probably every living, breathing human being in the city of Harvey wants, familiar with the demolition of abandoned property. So this is, we want more. So if there's anybody watching from, the Housing Development Authority, by any chance, we thank you and we want more. And if there's anybody that is not a part of the Illinois Housing Development Authority that has some money to help us do it, we want yours too. But the chair will entertain a motion.
I made the motion.
Motion by the first, second by the second, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rogers,
Yes.
Alderman Pruitt,
Yes.
Alderman Tolbert,
Yes.
Alderwoman Jermenski,
Yes.
and Alderman Keith.
Yes.
Motion carried. And that resolution number is 2949.
29-4.
Yes.
Finally, on the all business, new business, excuse me, is item 7B4, an ordinance approving jurisdictional transfer between the Illinois Department of Transportation and the City of Harvey. This is specifically, the jurisdictional transfer as it pertains to Harvey Avenue. As you believe you are aware, Pace and Metro are working together for the first time, I will be supporting to some of them, Pace and Metro history, to create a unified transit station at 154th Street. And just to clear up some of that too, another one of the rumors that I
up here to see if Harvey got $9 million. Now tell me, somebody in the room has heard that. Okay, someone has heard that. Okay, great. But we got, the city of Harvey got $9 million. The city of Harvey did not get $9 million. I wish that we would have, because it would solve a lot of our problems. And maybe I'll talk to the speaker of the house one day about something like that at some point in time. However, I'm not going to embarrass certain people, but we didn't get $9 million. Penny stock money was like $8.8 million or something like that. Yeah, $8 million. And actually, this money was awarded back in 2019. Is that when the capital fund reserve operation? Yeah, yeah. The capital fund was first brought forth by our good governor. He brought it before the legislature. They were so kind to approve those funds, and part of those funds went to PACE and also to Metro. That money did not go to the city of Harvard. However, fortunately, someone was thinking about us. I would say, as far as our state rep, our state senator, our governor was thinking about us and fighting for us. And so therefore, even though the money does not come directly to the city of Harvard, it is being used for the benefit of the city of Harvard. So, once again, and so through their efforts, Pace and Metro are building a unified transfer station. Part of that transfer station would be the jurisdictional transfer of Gallery to go along with that construction. So, without saying any more, the chair will entertain the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Motion by the first, I get the second. Okay, motion by the first, second by the second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Key,
Yes.
Alderman Tolbert,
Yes.
Alderman Rogers,
Yes.
Alderman Kruger,
Yes.
Alderwoman Jermenski.
Yes.
Motion carried. The ordinance number is 3438.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk and Council. Next item on the agenda is 10 public comment.
We did not receive any public comment.
We don't see any public comment. Madam Clerk, do you say something? No, we've done that. Yeah, we've done that. Thank you. That was done in, I think it was 73 and 74. There'll be no public comment. Before we go, a few things okay, before I say Chair recognizes Alderman of the first ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I wanted to address the residents of the first ward. We were aware of the garbage situation on Friday. The mayor, the city of Harvey, and Rick has been very diligently working with the company, and it did get picked up today. So they're going to rectify their problem in the future, God will. So I wanted to let everyone know that we have been working on it proactively. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderman 6.
Being residents of the 6th Ward, I'd just like to say thank you for your hard work and your diligence during this time of our rainy season, and with the excessive amount of foliage and grass growing, that everybody knows that we have to take care of our trash and put it in the right receptacles. If you got grass shavings, put them in a paper bag. You can sit in the front or in the rear. There's a separate truck from the public that comes out and picks up disposal waste, and there's a truck that comes out and picks up the grass waste. So if you see somebody picking up the garbage and don't pick up the grass, you can call me and I'll explain to you. Just be a little patient, because they'll get it all on the same day. And I'd like to thank the street department, because I see a presence over in the 6th Ward as far as grass and the big green tractors taking care of some of the major thoroughfares. And I'd like to commend this city council on the vote we did tonight for the emergency demolitions that are occurring on 147th Street. The old Larry's Lounge and the old barber shop, it's looking pretty bad over there. So hopefully in the near future that we can make 147 one of our pride spots again when people traveling down through our city. Thank you very much.
To recognize the second ward.
Just a reminder for the second ward, this weekend, August 14th, we have our back to school giveaway for the second ward. So I look forward to seeing everyone out and pass it along. Thank you. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second, thank you. Before we go to adjournment, I just want to say a few words first of all regarding I'm glad you acknowledged it in your prayer already regarding the incidents regarding the Chicago Police Department, police officers, and of course that we keep that family in our prayers. We had a close call incident I called about a month or so back. One of our police officers was wounded in the line of duty. God willing, he was able to survive that. So it wasn't fatal, but we could have been in the same situation that the officers in Chicago are now. And how you would definitely hope that you're never in a position to help to sympathize with that type of thing. I believe that we all can empathize as far as what the officers are going through, but also what the families are going through. But I want you to recognize again, I did give him a call, but I didn't call him again and check up on our own officer, Officer Muhammad, who was injured in the line of duty as well. And we ready to get out from under that. And for that, we're grateful. And like I said, we praise God for his blessings as far as seeing that family through. So I just wanted to make sure we recognize that. Because it's a difficult time. It's a difficult time for police officers, even if it's not in their jurisdiction, to have something like that happen to an officer. So I want to recognize that. Then the last thing that I wanted to try to give a little plug for is our residential reactivation program. I don't know if anyone has had an opportunity to see this flyer. If not, you can go on our website and cityofharvey.il.gov. And you'll see the flyer. You'll also see more details regarding this particular program. This is one of the things that this administration is trying to do as it comes to dealing with some of the blight in our community, but not only the blight, but trying to promote home ownership. I think it's now 56% of our homes are rental homes. And many of those people who are renting here in the city of Harvey, many of them would actually like to be homeowners. And one of the things that I believe that the government can do is doing. So anyone who's currently doing it, they're not slighting those people, but here specifically to see how we want to try to promote homeownership. So through the residential reactivation program, we developed a program that basically allow the person to be able to purchase a city of Harvey owned property, renovate that property, bring it up to code, a few other essentials of the program as far as requirements. And in my opinion, unless someone shows me differently, basically own a home within about 5 to 7 years for a little bit of the cost, less than the cost of actual rent. As we begin to advertise this program more, put more marketing behind this program, we're going to actually have a few public discussions about it so that people can know what it's about. And I really honestly believe that as we move forward with it, not only will the city of Harvey be on board, but I believe that it's the type of model that can be replicated throughout the state and throughout the nation. Homeownership, specifically homeownership of the Black community, has always been an issue. I think the past 25 years, I think the study was 25 years ago, homeownership was at this level. I don't remember what the number was, but At this level, 25 years later, homeownership in the black community was still at the same level. So even if, yeah, so I feel look in your face, yes, it's still the same level. So that's absolutely amazing. So specifically, as far as black and brown people, specifically black homeownership, we have a long way to go. And we can all do our part to help to bring that to be manifest. So I just wanted to, once again, say a little bit about that. Once again, you can go to the City of Harvey website, the cityofharvey.gov, look up the residential right reactivation program. It's going to detail some requirements and policy. And right now, it's in the pilot phase. So once we get to the pilot phase, that's where we work out all the bugs and the kinks and tweaks. So if anybody sees something that's a glitch, first of all, number one is you can always bring it to our attention. Second of all, that's the whole purpose of a pilot program, so that we can figure it out. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you, council, for your time as well. On that note, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by the clerk, second by the first. Madam Clerk? Not yet. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Chair, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. It's 9:04 p.m. God bless